Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 59th edition of Fan Fuel Motorsports podcast where fans fuel talk about motorsport. And today is a very special day. If you are in a certain fandom, it is May the 4th, and that means it is Star Wars Day. And I want to bring in our guests before we get into this because these two guys that I have right here have never seen any Star Wars media. But our guest tonight, Jacob Cummings, part of the JC Racing Photos, or I guess owner of JC Racing Photos, and part of the Pennsylvania posse of fans, is going to be our fan spotlight night. So everybody, welcome on. Jacob, how's it going?
Going good, Alex. How are you?
I am doing fine. So let's get into some Star Wars stuff because it is Star Wars Day. I got these guys to go and do some homework and watch the pod racing scene from episode 1. But can I just go ahead and ask you how you feel knowing that these two guys and our third host, Jared Pakaisa, have not seen any Star Wars?
Hey, there's always room for a sit-down movie night with Star Wars. I mean, they got Disney Plus now, and you can watch it anytime. So I guess get doing your homework on it.
I already got enough homework as is.
I've played Lego Star Wars.
Hey, that counts.
I've got okay. So where's
Okay, so I have to ask, which Lego Star Wars did you play? Did you play the original?
the complete saga?
The complete saga. So was the complete saga, did they have voices by then, or was it just the grunts?
No, it's always been the grunts.
Okay, yeah. So
That's what I didn't like
you
about
don't
the
know
new
any
games.
of the classic dialogues or anything? Can you guys name me a single line from any of the saga?
I'll spit out a couple Jabba the Hutt quotes when I'm drunk.
I can't compete with that.
Nothing, Nathan?
I mean, come on now.
Not even the most famous one?
No, yeah, I already know that I am your father,
Nothing?
Or May the Force
No,
be with you.
Yeah,
I
There
you
you
guys
go.
you guys don't know anything about prequel memes or anything like that? I have the high ground, all that stuff.
Oh, I've heard that one before. It's over Anakin or whatever.
Well, I'll give you that, Nathan. I am so disappointed in the three of you guys. I mean, Jared's not here to defend himself, but I'm so disappointed that you guys have not just partaken in such a massive part of American and even world culture when it comes to cinematography. Get into it. It's fun. It's an adventure, and some of the best.
I will not watch Star Wars specifically for the reaction that I get when I tell someone that I've never watched Star Wars is far better than any movie I've ever seen.
Jesus Christ.
And Colton,
You're a hater, Colton.
I'm such a troll.
Yeah. Thanks, Dustin. His lack of faith is disturbing. All right, so let's get into what's going on tonight. JC Racing Photos, Jake Cummings. We had your dad on here last year, and if you guys remember that episode, it was with my dad and his dad, Chad and Danny. They have been friends their whole lives, basically, and we've been to a few races together ourselves. So before we get into exactly who you are, I want to take a little bit of time to spotlight just how many races you've been to. So can you quantify for everybody listening which tracks you've been to, which series you've been to?
All right. Well, I've been to a lot of different tracks, and I can probably name them right now. Atlanta, Talladega, Indianapolis, Elko Speedway in Minnesota, Iowa. I've been to Dover, Pocono, like dirt tracks around here, Lincoln Speedway, Williams Grove, Port Royal just recently, doing photos over there. Just living up here in Pennsylvania has opened up the door for dirt racing, and I used to not be a dirt racing fan, but I'm all in it now. I forgot about a NASCAR track I just recently went to, Richmond, but it's fun being in this little corridor of NASCAR dirt racing where you're up in the Northeast and you got all this stuff to do. Yeah, I guess.
Is there any particular track that sets your, I guess, alarms off for this is a badass track better than the rest?
Yeah, it's Lincoln Speedway. That thing is tiny. The World Outlaws always goes like 4 wide there. It's amazing. It's, as I said, super tiny. It's got really short straights and these wide sweeping corners. It's just amazing to watch the World Outlaws race there, or just the weekly dirt series. I love taking pictures there too on the back straightaway. You get some really cool shots of them coming off the corner, and it's just a fun track. And the garage is super open. You just walk through it. It's literally just a field, like a parking lot.
Yeah. Now, you've been to a lot of different dirt tracks, not just in that area. You've been down with us, and that is at Sonoa Raceway, I know, with us. How is the dirt different, south versus north?
It's a lot faster. They don't really do much late models up here, and really the only place to go see late models is Port Royal when the Lucas Oil Dirt Series or the World of Outlaws come. Down south, it's just a whole thing of dirt late models. You got the Southern All Stars and all. I'd say it's better up here. You got better personalities, especially with the PA posse. They seem to be all up in each other's throats, and just you got the World Outlaws and the PA posse going at it every time they come together. And in a few weeks, they'll be coming together. So it's always a great show. Always super cheap to go to. So you're getting really good action.
Yeah. You guys have any questions for him before we move on to his most recent race?
Ooh, I think I'll get into those later because I got to hit the basic questions, but I don't know when to hit them. So,
Yeah, I'm with Nate. Let me
then.
formulate some here real quick.
Okay. Well,
I'm still
before we get to really know Jake, let's open up a little bit. Let's get fluid with everybody so that we got the show rolling pretty good. Let's get you warmed up. You went to Dover this weekend, so we will start off with this Dover stuff. And I guess first things first, I want to ask you, let's get into the heavy hitting stuff. You had to go back on Monday. Do you think that the start times is worth it? Because apparently it's all TV and they really don't give a shit about you guys that go to the races.
Yeah, going to the track at 3:00. It's just you get there really early and you just don't know what to do until 3:00. I mean, we had that. I was there from at least 9 to 3, and they could have gotten that race in at 12 and then ended it before the rain came, because the rain didn't even come till like 4:30. It's just dumb. Mostly my gripe with 3:30 start times is some of the tracks around here you can't go without coming back after dark. And on Saturday we went to the Xfinity race, started at 1:30, came home at like 5, and it was great coming home in the sunlight. I don't understand why they're doing it. You got so much prime time to start the race. There's nothing else on either, and I don't understand why people would want to watch a race at 3:00.
yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of it either. I think it's just, especially if a track doesn't have lights. I mean, you can't just start a race and say, hey, we only have a couple hours to get this in if there's a red flag or something. And then whenever something does happen, it ends up either being darkness shortened or it's like, yeah, we have to go the next day.
Yeah, and I've even lived out on the West Coast. I'm in Rocky Mountains right now, and I don't like them either because when I was a kid and for the longest time growing up, Sunday morning, I knew that if it was an East Coast race, I could flip it on at 10 or, around there and, have that, watch it all late morning, early afternoon, and then have the rest of my Sunday. As to where now I have to start projects around the house and then stop them at noon or 1 to then watch a 3:00 race on the East Coast. And then, by the time that's all over, I'm left with a couple hours to go make dinner and get off to bed before I have to be work super early. So I mean, even a TV thing, I get it's more of a primetime audience for Sunday, but also football's not on. People are so accustomed to watching 10 a.m. football games. Let's knock it back at least until the second week of September. That's the only time I understand that.
Yeah. So here's the thing for me. You can come at me with all the TV stuff that you want. The West Coast is not our biggest market. We're not selling to the West Coast nearly as much. They're not in our top 5 markets. It's Raleigh-Durham, it's Greensboro, it's the Richmond market, and then it changes between the Charlotte, Atlanta, and Fairfax, Virginia markets as the rest of that top 5. It's never the LA market. The West Coast, we have more representation over there. So you would think that we would have West Coast fans, but we don't. It's not a West Coast sport. I hate catering to them because I know for a fact that if I was in the Pacific time zone and you started a cup race at 12:30, I would damn sure gobble up some breakfast NASCAR. I mean, I don't know why people wouldn't. It's exactly what Colton was talking about, having to start your day earlier to do things then around the house, shopping, what have you, and then you get home, watch the race, and now you don't have anything to do with your evening because we start at 3, and if we have one red flag, we're ending after 7.
Right.
It's not really good for anybody on the East Coast, and you're messing up prime time for the guys on the West Coast. And there's been talks about Formula One people. I stay up till 3 a.m. and watch some of the Pacific races. I watch the European races between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. It's
Right.
not something that won't happen for those fans on that West Coast.
Yeah. And Formula One viewership is growing in the United States. So start times are not an option. That's not the main reason for it. It's the marketing.
Right. And I think
Yeah,
F1's
people
have
will-
crazy ratings this week because it'll be on network ABC and at 3:30.
Right.
Yeah, people stayed up till 1 a.m. to watch that Australia race. I mean, it's still got
Yeah,
good view counts in the
I've done it
United
for
States.
years.
Yeah.
Like all the Japan races, Australia, Malaysia, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
China
I'm
used to
used
come
to
on at like 2
all that
a.m.
stuff.
Yeah. West Coast viewership, as far as TV goes, is just a straw man argument at this point.
Yeah, and I'm gonna base this off of mine and Jake's experiences at NASCAR tracks, because Colton, you've never really been to them, and then Nathan, you've only really been to Daytona, and I'm sure the vibe at Daytona is a lot different just because of its hollow ground state. But looking at races now versus what we did previously, you said you were there from 9 to 3 at Dover this weekend, and there was really nothing going on. You got there at 8 or 9 in the morning, and you did a whole bunch of shit. And there were, different shows, where there was the motorcycle show from Monster, concerts outside, pre-race concert inside the racetrack, and then we went straight racing at 1:30 p.m. Do you think that fans are going to stick around as we further and further go down this late train just for TV at the racetrack? Because is it worth it for you as someone who you said got home after dark on Sunday to go there if you get a job that's a little bit harsher on leave time and stuff like that, where you can't go on Monday and whatever?
I think it's just so the main thing is getting home late, and my dad has to work, and he goes to work every morning. My brother has to work now, and it's hard for them to be up really late getting home from these Sunday races, and in this case Monday, just to go to work. You're tired. It takes a lot out of you to go there and watch a race because you're sitting in the sun and hot grandstands, and it kind of sucks that it starts at 3:30 and you got to drive home, and you don't get home till like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and you really just at that moment you're still jacked up from the race. You can't go to sleep, and I just wish it was at 1. You get home at like 7 or 5, like 5 or 6, and you could just have that downtime, and then you go to bed and get up. It's just kind of odd that we're going to start races at 3:30 on the West Coast or on the East Coast, and kind of it almost feels like they left the fans at the track behind and went full on into this TV deal, even though we got packed grandstands, and they really don't need to cater to people who they don't reach. I mean, it's just stupid.
Yeah, that's one thing I hope that this next TV deal brings in, is NASCAR does not give the TV as much leverage over our sport. Yeah, even if it's a little bit less money, it can easily be made up with at-track, events and things like that, and just better marketing.
I mean, that was the best crowd at Dover I've ever seen since like 2011. I mean, there were tons of people there, but they started at 3, and then like 40% of them only stayed till Monday.
Yeah,
and that doesn't look good on TV on Monday. So that brings back the sports dying, look at stands mantra that we've heard for so long. So they said on Twitter, I forgot who posted it. I think it was Albino or Albino. Posted that NASCAR is willing to sacrifice 2 days or 2 Mondays a year for the 3 p.m. start time because it brings in so many more viewers. I don't think that's
I'm not
at
buying
all good.
No,
I'm not
no,
buying
no.
that either. Because I will say what I always say: bringing a fan to a racetrack is the best way to make a race fan. And if I convince my buddies to go, the race starts at 3:30, and we don't get back home until 9 because we live 4 hours away from the racetrack, and we got lucky enough to get out of the racetrack as soon as the race was over. They're not going to want to come back because they've been hot, sticky, sweaty, and now sitting in the car for 4 hours, and it's 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. and they got to go to work in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm not buying the whole thing. But let's not do our standard thing. I know it's funny to me that today's Star Wars Day, and the two things that NASCAR fans and Star Wars fans have in common is they don't ever stop complaining about the stuff that they watch. But let's get into what was good about this weekend. So I'll let you kind of lead off the conversation with this, Jake. Let's start with Xfinity on Saturday. That's the one race that I watched in entirety. But what did you see from the stands, and how good of a race was it?
I saw a really competitive race, and you had like multiple lines moving. You saw later in the race, kind of more stage 3. You saw Justin Allgaier come up off the top, go all the way down off turn 2, really gaining that run. And I love that with races where we get multi-groove. They really have to strategize to pass people, and him and Josh Berry were doing the best at it, and that's why they finished 1-2. You had really good deep battles. The back markers were super competitive with each other. They weren't trying to go a lap down. They were racing 4 wide with each other most of the time. It was really fun to watch. It seemed like everybody was kind of close, but the JRM cars really just blew off the field. And like the Toyotas weren't really that good because they were pushing all the time. And you'd see them go in the corner and they get behind someone and they just shoot up towards the wall. But other than that, the Dover's great for Xfinity. I mean, you got that low downforce 670 package that they got. It's really good. It was a really good race. I loved it.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I didn't really see all the race, but I saw most of it, and I was pretty happy with it up until I had to get up and do something, and then I kind of didn't end up seeing the rest of the race. But from what little I saw, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a really good race. I'm with Nate. I didn't watch the entirety of it from flag to flag, but I did catch a lot kind of in between doing chores around the house. I really liked that these cars were slipping and sliding around, something we've grown accustomed to the Xfinity cars, but that's something we've been missing on Sundays, and it was super cool to see that again. I'm a huge fan of Dover. Dover is one of my top 3 favorite tracks. I always love the banks there and just the speed they carry into the corners and the amount of throttle control you have to carry it around. And I think it sits perfectly just for a guy like Josh Berry, who's raced late models for so long, Justin Allgaier, who has all the experience he does. It's a great learning opportunity. I wish that Xfinity at very least would go there twice a year, just so a lot of these guys can, these younger guys can learn from these veterans of how to actually handle and manhandle a race car.
Yeah, I think we can all attest to how good of a driver's track Dover is, and it's not a typical driver's track either. Where
Right.
you think of driver's track as a Pocono or a Indianapolis,
Like a Richmond.
Loudon, the flat tracks that really work the throttle and brake, and you have to drive the car around everybody. Passing doesn't come easy. Dover is like that, but it's so much faster because of its kind of bowl shape, the just rigidity of the concrete, and how far you drop off into and out of the corners with the banking differential on the corners and the straightaways. It's just such a unique challenge, and I think that TV has never done that place justice. I know that Jake can attest to that because he's been to every race since probably 2015, 2016.
I've been to every Dover race since every race since 2015. I've been to Dover since 2018, and man, they always follow the leader at Dover. They never go back into the pack. I mean, there's so much great racing in the back. Like I said, the backmarker teams who weren't acting like backmarker teams in this race were racing like 3 abreast the whole time, blocking the leader because they were just racing for position. It was great.
Yeah, and that's something you don't find at most of these drivers' racetracks. It's a really good track, and everyone's on the doom and gloom that we're going to lose Dover. I hope we don't. It is a fantastic race for race fans, and that would be a real shame. I do want to point out that Colton said that I wish Xfinity went there twice. So this is a complaint that I think we all probably have with the way that NASCAR runs right now, with just, I guess, the circus that is the Xfinity and Truck Series. It annoys the shit out of me that one of the best tracks in the country, the trucks don't go to. So I would love to see Trucks and Xfinity take a weekend up to Dover. And
I would rather see Trucks and Xfinity at Dover than at Pocono.
Right.
Yeah, that ARCA East race was terrible. I mean, they didn't have a good car count, and there was only 2 competitive cars, and no one was there. No one was there for that ARCA East race. But you throw the trucks on there, you'll get people there. You'll have a great day. Just adding Xfinity practice and qualifying, and you get the trucks. That's a great day, and you sell more tickets. It's just that ARCA series isn't good anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
That I think the fall of the K&N Pro East and West Series due to the ARCA merger is definitely something that we could spend a whole show on. But I want to get back to the Xfinity race. I thought it was one of the best races of the year. The JRM cars showed just how dominant they were at that track and are probably going to be a force to reckon with going forward. But I do want to ask about the 9 car of Noah Gragson. He seemed to have been the flagship guy this year so far. What did you see from the stands on his behalf this Saturday?
Well, I saw him rattle in the 54's cage the entire race, and I think him focusing on that 54 really just took him out of the race. They were completely beat by the 7 and 8 just the whole race, and they looked behind. He couldn't pass, and he couldn't maintain that pace that the 7 and 8 were as well. And it could have been just him racing everybody stupidly because he was, but I think they were still there. He did have a top 10 day, I think, and he was still running. Something was up with him, and his pit crew was good. I sat right in front of his pit box, and they were having really fast stops. I was timing him, but he just wasn't there. He wasn't mentally there in the race.
So I'm pretty sure he had a top 5 day, didn't he? Yeah, he finished 3rd.
Yeah, everyone but Mayer probably.
Oh no, I'm looking at standings.
And Mayer had the best day, in my opinion. He loses a tire, gets a speeding penalty, but man, he fought back to finish in the top 10 after all that. It was amazing.
If he could have like a single clean day, like he's gonna win. Like the very moment he has a race where nothing happens.
Yeah, I know we talk about Ty Gibbs all the time, but I think Sam Mayer's a way better driver.
I think those two are going to be hands down the biggest 2 talents and rivals that NASCAR is going to have for the next 20 years.
It's going to be so enjoyable too.
Yeah. Noah finished 4th. I mean, he was there. He just wasn't quite as there as his other teammates were. You mentioned Sam Mayer having that big charge. Obviously, Barry and Allgaier were duking it out for a good portion of the race. I think he just had the JRM speed, but not quite the JRM execution that we're used to seeing from Noah Gragson this year. I do want to point out our guy Raja Caruth. We had him on the podcast last year. Had a great fucking save in turns 1 and 2. Oh man, that thing was completely sideways. We saw him do that last year in the ARCA race at Bristol too. This guy has incredible car control. If he gets a good ride and has time to develop as a driver, he is going to be another one of those great talents that we watch in the Cup Series.
He qualified great too.
Yeah,
he's a very
qualified.
I think 12th.
Yeah,
12th.
Yeah, he just barely got knocked out
at Phoenix in the ARCA race, and it seems like like you mentioned, he's a very handsy driver. Like there's never a race where he doesn't get sideways once, if not multiple times. But it was interesting because he had a cup spotter for this Phoenix race, and he was a little bit all over the place. He was racing really hard early, and you could see him kind of progress through the race. He would calm a little bit. The more he calmed down, it's like the faster he went. And by the end of the race, he was up to 2nd or whatever. And it was just like, I think even the cup spotter remarks like, man, he really learns quick. So I don't really think this is the end with him. I think this is only the beginning.
Yeah. So Raja, I think, I don't know how many times I've said it. You probably are annoyed by me saying it on the podcast, on Twitter, whatever. He's the classiest young talent in NASCAR. He is a phenomenal guy when it comes to car control, like you guys have stated. And Nate, I want to kind of build off your point. His spotter is Lambert. So his spotter is Denny Hamlin's spotter, who has won, I believe, 2 Daytona 500s with Denny Hamlin. So he's got everything that he needs other than the car under his belt. He would have won that Talladega race in the ARCA series had ARCA not dropped the ball on that one. We did discuss that. He had a massive save in that race after putting himself in a shitty situation. He's always learning. His I guess, learning curve is not nearly as steep as it should be for the age that he is. I believe he's 19 years old, and he has very few racing starts because he basically got started digitally way more than you could say for William Byron. So Raja's out here just every time he gets on the track, every lap he makes, he becomes a better driver. I don't understand how he can take all this information in and put it towards working better for the next lap, every single lap. But that is a generational talent, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely one to watch. I keep pointing him out to all my buddies who are either watching the race with me or who I talk to about NASCAR at work. You guys need to keep this kid on your radar because he is going to be something here soon. He just needs one good ride and a couple good races just to kind of get himself going.
Absolutely. Well, not like we don't always like bragging about our favorite Xfinity part-timer of Roger Carruth, but let's talk about Sunday's Cup race. Again, since you were there, Jake, we're going to let you kind of take the lead off of this one. Just Sunday action versus Monday action is going to be my first question. And, how hype was the race based on both of those days?
Well, Sunday was more subdued. I mean, because you got the all that grip from the colder temperatures and the rain. Monday was a completely different race. It was incredible compared to Sunday. Sunday, it felt like they were racing the rain more than they were actually racing. Monday, that 9 car came alive on Monday compared to Sunday. The Hendrick cars seemed a lot better. I think they were more set up to the sunlight anyway. Denny Hamlin, it doesn't matter what day he's racing on. He was fast both. He came out and he was whooping tail on Sunday, and he came out and did it on Monday until he had the problems. I honestly thought he was going to win. But other than that, it was amazing. This next-gen car has surprised me a lot, and I think it's the fact that we got the 670 and the low downforce. It's really working everywhere. I think we only really had one bad race, and Dover was spectacular. It almost felt like a Gen 4 race from the past. It was just amazing.
Yeah, I think I was impressed. Obviously, it looked really hard to drive. It was entertaining. I think the Monday, like you said, was better than Sunday because it was sunny out. I thought it was good competition, though, between the Hendrick and the Gibbs cars because it seemed really even. It seems like JGR has kind of been behind on the shorter tracks this year when last year that was pretty much where they dominated. And you looked at, like he said in the comments, Hamlin probably had the best car all day before it got damaged. He still would have won the race if not for Cody Ware. He would have came from 30th to the lead in the single stage after the wheel came off. I want to say the 18 was in contention for the win up until a caution kind of put him – it didn't ruin his day, but it kind of just put him on the back foot strategy-wise because I know he was racing the 48 like the entire day. I think the 19 was like a top 5 car up until the last lap when he wrecked. Not sure where the 20 finished, but I know he was somewhere in the top 10. So I think it was kind of fun because it shows that at the mile tracks are bigger. It seems like JGR and HMS are pretty even. It's just the flatter tracks are kind of weak for them. So I think it's fun that there isn't like a single dominant team. They're kind of just going back and forth.
Yeah, I did watch the last little bit of the race on Sunday. I picked it up about 80 to go when Kyle Busch and Bowman were having their battle. Got shuffled back in a caution, which I was disappointed in because I really wanted to see them duke it out. But, as long as that 9 car got the track position, he was going to run away with it. Towards the end there, I was really impressed with that 47 car. I'm not a huge Stenhouse fan. I don't like giving him props, but holy crap, was he fast at the end. It looked like there was about an 8-lap stretch where he was constantly closing in on Chase, and it looked like he might run him down before they got into lap traffic, and he kind of stalled his run out.
I don't even know where he came from. He was just in second.
And he was holding his own, too. It wasn't like he was, just kind of lucked into the spot. Like, he was fighting them off and really maneuvering the lap traffic well. He even made up some ground on Chase in the lap cars.
He gapped the 1 car and the 19 car. He was just off into those corners.
Yep.
And I still don't know how he got there.
Yeah, I don't either. I think at the start of the race, I was kind of paying attention to the back a little bit once Hamlin lost the wheel, just because he was back there. And I never really knew where he was because I was just watching my driver kind of work his way up. And I was like, he's half a second faster than the 9 car in traffic. I was like, okay, cool. He's going to win this race if nothing happens. And I paid no attention to the 47. And then once he gets there, I'm like kind of confused. Just where did he come from? And it just seems like something JTG does once every year. Like I know last year they were like this at Nashville where they were in the top 5 at some point. And I know they were like that in a Charlotte race 2 years ago. They just show up out of nowhere, and it's always like one random weekend a year. So
I got to shout out.
Go ahead.
I was going to shout out to my guy, Kyle Larson.
Oh yeah,
damn, he spun out, he tore up the car, but he still fought for that lucky dog. He got back in the race, and he came back and finished 6th. I mean, that's just incredible, and you really don't see that much stuff at Dover.
No, you don't.
Yeah. So this was more of a battle of attrition just because of the circumstances where we had pit road penalties, idiot drivers, I won't name names, and then racing wheels off of pit road. It was very interesting. I think it was more of a classic NASCAR race. And I do want to say it got an 82% on the Gluck poll. I don't normally reference the Gluck poll, but for a racetrack where we stereotypically see fan hate for because of the TV broadcast, we got over an 80%. What do you guys feel like with that poll result? Was it because we got a good TV broadcast, or are people starting to really get into these races are better because X, Y, and Z, even though we can't see it?
I do not think that Chase Elliott has ever won a race and then gotten less than 80% in the Gluck poll the next day.
Yeah,
I am almost positive of that.
Yeah.
I'd have to ask Jeff, but I just think it's partially the Elliott effect and partially that people are coming around on Dover. This next gen car really helped Dover compared to the Gen 6. I thought it was an excellent race. So, I mean, I vote yes on almost any of them that I think has really good strategy and good maneuverability and some long runs in there. But I'm not sure, some Chase effect going on.
Yeah, I think people are just this next gen is just impressing everybody. I mean, it's creating that close racing that NASCAR wanted, and we're not getting all that stupid, BS that they did to create it. Like the high downforce and the low horsepower last year, we're finally getting some close racing where the drivers have to wheel it. And I'm really excited for Kansas now with this new car. Maybe it'll make it better.
Oh yeah, this is definitely a 1.5-mile car for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I think we need the most, because the high speeds and passing is something that we haven't had in a solid half or more decade, and that's what NASCAR was really built on in the modern era. And I think the next gen car is working well at it.
What's funny
is there any? Go ahead.
What's funny is that they built a road course car that ends up being really good on 1.5-mile tracks. And when they build a 1.5-mile car, it ends up being really good on a road course. I think it's just every time they build a car that's not meant for something, that ends up being the best racing for whatever reason.
Just hasn't been the best on the short tracks yet, but I think that's an easy fix.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we talked about that post Martinsville about some of the fixes. I think I am in the feeling that we just need to get rid of the underbody arrow and open up the gearboxes. That's the two things that will make it work.
Gear ratios.
Yeah, better gear ratios too. Getting that power off the
They were
corners.
designed originally for 550, and when they changed the horsepower, they just left the gear ratios the same for whatever reason. I don't know why they left them the same, but I'm hoping they can fix that when they have the parts.
That comment is so true by Chad. MRN, man. The Fox
Yeah.
broadcast sucked, but the MRN is always in it with the excitement.
So
Yeah, Fox
I
is
do
better.
want to touch on that. Fox is still not great at all, but I think Clint has been developing the season a little bit better. Well, especially the last few weeks, he hasn't been so just loud and obnoxious and crazy. He's kind of toned down a little bit. So I do want to shout out to them because it has been at least somewhat palatable the last couple of weeks. They did kind of go back into the weird route
listen to
of
criticism, I
showing
think.
kids on TV, which is kind of weird. But Clint, Larry Mack definitely helped him. And some of these guests they're bringing in definitely helps him kind of go more into the play-by-play and analytics of the race rather than just, bullshitting up in the booth.
Oh, the guests are
I think
incredible.
the pre-race show. I mean, I haven't watched the pre-race show in however long, but I noticed that people are saying, "Hey, there hasn't been a ridiculous skit in however many weeks." So it's like they might be listening. I'm not going to say for sure, but I hope they are.
I think after the watermelon seed thing, they got lit up on Twitter. That was atrocious.
Yeah, that was bad.
It was.
I didn't even see it, so I don't.
You're
know.
lucky.
I didn't see it either, but I
stupidity.
saw pictures.
I don't even know what they were thinking with doing that. That was just so out there and stupid.
Wasting money.
That was like
it.
a Breaking Bad skit too. A couple weeks before that.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that they think race fans are stupid. I don't think that that the majority of race fans or new fans that are going to come on here to watch new races are into the nuance of the sport. Like, I'm sure that the technical side and explaining pit strategy, explaining, the different grip levels of each track and why this is going to work, that's going to work is not nuance for a lot of people. I think it's a big part of the sport, and I think they're just now coming to fruition to understanding that because we complained so much week to week. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, massive amount of podcasts that are in the NASCAR world like us, and that could even be why Clint is not going to be Daryl 2.0 this last couple weeks. I mean, he's a goofy personality himself, just like DW was, but he doesn't need to act goofy. He just needs to be himself.
He doesn't need slogans or stupid sayings
rod.
every week.
How many times do you see hot rod when he describes?
I think that one's just Clint. Notice he says
like
hot
Rusty
rod.
Wallace used to have stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like how many times did Rusty Wallace say flat flying?
Right, exactly.
Like 5
that's
times
just a
every-
Clintism. Same with like he says and oh by the way about 45 times during the broadcast. I think that's just natural Clint, but this well look at that there. That's Brian.
That's not.
I'm just glad
You
we're
know
not
what?
doing boogity boogity every week.
Now, see, I don't know about that. I thought the boogity stuff was pretty good. It only happens once per race, and it was pretty classic Fox NASCAR with DW. But I will say I do enjoy the weekly Clint impersonation from Colton because it gets better every week. So
Yes, it does.
I hope to show it to Clint one day.
yeah, well, maybe we'll run into him in July.
He's a little bit bigger than I am. I don't know that I want to really do that yet.
Well, you know what? We'll have more numbers. There'll be at
He's
least
speedy,
three,
too.
maybe 4.
He's got some speed too. Remember 2012 Phoenix.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So
Oh,
my
yeah,
dad's
yeah.
trying to get us all poisoned. Sounds like a new drinking game. Take a shot after Clint says, "Oh, by the way,
Let me tell you. Or
I'm not trying to have a hangover at work the next day."
Yeah, I'll take a sip of beer because I'll still probably get through like 9 or 10 beers.
It's almost like the new when Jeff Gordon said, "Look at this."
oh man, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
Or like the Rick Allen around goes the insert car and
Yeah.
like X driver looking for X win.
I
We're
will
not
say
calling the
this:
driver
Rick
friendly.
Allen gave us one of the best sound bites in NASCAR history with "aggressive goes around."
Yeah, that was
His
Yeah.
mouth was running faster than his brain was, and that was just amazing.
That was at Watkins
That's
Glen,
just-
right? Watkins
Yeah, it
Glen
was
2015.
Yeah, aggressive goes around. I can't tell you.
He's
Do we
aggressive.
have anything else to talk about from Sunday's race at Dover before we get into more of who Jake is?
I thought the
Shout out
fan
to
zone
my
was
guy.
pretty good.
Ryan Priest.
Yes.
Qualified excellent. Ran, I think he even finished on the lead lap in a Rick Ware car. That shows that, like, you get some really good drivers in this equipment. Yeah, quotation mark. All right, I know he's contracted in with Stuart Haas. But the equipment isn't all to blame with Rick Ware. Their equipment still sucks, but their drivers are bad too.
He's definitely getting that 10 car after this year. I fully believe that.
As soon as Eric Almirola announced his retirement, I was on that train, and I hope so. Priest is a good guy. I used to be a fan of him running late or modifieds up in the Northeast. I do follow a lot of that local racing up there. He was always a guy that I really enjoyed watching. Yeah, it's an SHR branded Rick Ware car.
Yes.
But I mean, he has a ton of talent.
So I wonder, I know once we get the parts back on to, because we don't have a lot of parts because of the new car and the pandemic, whatever. I'm wondering if this partnership with SHR is going to lead Rick Ware down a road of actual competition, because they've shown light when they have certain cars on the track. If I'm SHR, I'm going to put, once we have the parts in surplus, I'm going to put more money into that relationship. And I think we could see some pretty decent drivers in the 51 and 52. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's their problem. I think that's the problem is the drivers, is they're just not getting the talent pool that they need. With Ty Gibbs coming up, I could definitely see some JGR guys getting fired, mainly Christopher Bell. It seems that 20 cars is all the way around sometimes. You see someone new in it every year. So definitely be great to pick up Christopher Bell to go run that Rick Ware team if he wants to build it up.
Yeah, honestly, I'm interested because I feel like it's something that Ford is in general lacked as like development drivers. So I think them picking up Priest is a big deal because, I mean, they're let's face it, they're a lot. I can't even speak right now. Their development program is Haley Deegan and Riley Herbst, and like no offense, but it's just not the greatest thing when the best they have is Herbst, who just at best he's like a 5th place car in Xfinity. So I'm hoping that
average he's right.
Yeah, I think we see him dump more money into it so long as Ford and Haas get more say in the drivers. Because I know Cody Ware probably isn't going anywhere just because, Dad's team. Excuse me. But I would like to use that, or I would like to see him use that as kind of a feeder team to sneak some of these Xfinity drivers away from Chevy and Toyota. Someone like maybe a Noah Gragson. Some of the young guys that we see going down there, throw them in a cup ride. Throw Josh Berry in there at a part-time rotation, that would be a really good thing for him.
I think Braxton's going to Petty next year, the 42, if I had to guess. But then again, my guesses aren't always right. So,
back in 2018, they already did this. I mean, SHR's already done it. They put Cole Custer in the 51 back in 2018 for Richmond. He ran amazing in that car. So, I mean, why not do it again?
Yeah, do it for a full season.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those younger guys at SHR were demoted for a bigger talent. Let's say that Ty Gibbs does come up next year. Let's say that Truex is out because, whatever. Let's say that the 18 is where Ty Gibbs goes because they don't want to pay Kyle Busch his money. I could see them putting Cole Custer or not Chase Briscoe now that he's won, or Ryan Preece in that 50-51 full-time and bringing one of those two guys in the 10. I mean, there's just – the sky's the limit with that side of it if SHR is willing to spend the money.
Well, I mean, Custer's dad is really high up with Haas. I don't think we see him go, but definitely a Ryan Preece. That would be really the only one I see moving.
Yeah, I think they're in a tricky place with Custer. I mean, I don't think he's a terrible driver, but he's kind of a mid-pack driver so far. And I looked it up, and something that kind of surprised me is that his grand total of laps led in an entire career was 15. And I think 8 of them came at Talladega. So it's just – I'm hoping for a little more from him so we don't have to have this problem, but it's a long way from now.
Yeah.
So before we get into some stuff, I know we were talking before the show about this weekend's events at Dover. And Jake, you had something to say after the SMI takeover.
So I didn't think the SMI takeover would have been that great. I thought he was going to use it just to remove Dover and add in his own Nashville race, which he's been trying to build up Nashville. But this weekend, it really seemed like he wanted to keep it. And I mean, the fan zone was filled with stuff. They were doing a whole carnival in the fan zone, like rides and stuff, like bumper cars, and like they did a fast pitch thing where you can pitch. It was pretty cool. I mean, they had the Ford stuff's always great. It just seems like they were trying to boost up fan interaction within the Dover space, which really hasn't been there when I went. Usually, the only thing at Dover that's there is the Ford uh, stage, the Ally stage, and then you have just the souvenir stuff, and that's it. But this week, it felt like the traveling circus that NASCAR's built as. I thought it was pretty good. I saw my only complaint really being that the Xfinity race only had 2 gates open. It was weird that they only had 2 gates open. You had the gate all the way at the far end of the speedway open, and then you had the gate at the other end of the speedway open. So you were trying to funnel people out of just 2 gates, and it took forever just to exit the track. Even though Dover has like so many gates, that's the only complaint. But then they opened up all the gates for the Cup race, which was stupid. But yeah, I thought SMI did a pretty good job. Other than that, I'm not usually on the SMI train. I really the Atlanta thing really soured it for me. But he's pretty good on occasion.
All right. Yeah. So we've said it before. Shout out to Marcus Phoenix for trying. We might not like half the shit that he tries, but obviously it's working for him. That is a genuine concern with SMI, though, as you said that the gates on Saturday. Sunday at the Atlanta race, we had the biggest crowd I've seen there in years, and people were waiting till after the green flag to get in. We saw this happen at Nashville last year. Obviously, it was Dover Motorsports Incorporated or whatever Dover's holdings were called before SMI bought them. But if they don't fix that this year, that race could definitely flop as well. I don't know what you guys are doing, but you've got to fix that. We're coming back in full force as fans post COVID. So you got to get your shit together because there's going to be a lot of people, especially at that Nashville race.
And they had before the Xfinity race even started, they were literally about to tell them, drivers, start your engines. There were people still behind us lined up to get in. Having only 2 gates open is just strange. And that was the biggest Xfinity crowd I've seen in however long since I've been going to races. Usually Xfinity series didn't bring out that many people, but it sure did on Saturday. And there are so many people just waiting to get in. It was weird. And the crowd really didn't get in the track. You really didn't see that big crowd until about halfway through the race. It was just weird.
It's a little bit on the ridiculous side. People are spending way too much money to not be able to get into the racetrack on a timely manner. That's ridiculous.
Seems to be an SMI problem too. I mean, it's just weird.
All right. So let's move on to a little bit about Jacob. This is a fan spotlight. We've been warming up for, what looks like 50 minutes. Had a great conversation so far. We've heard a little bit about you. You've been to a lot of racetracks. So let's get into the why. So if you're comfortable, let's get into kind of why you've been able to go to a lot of these racetracks, and then we'll get into the add-on questions from there.
Well, I've been going to all these races because my dad's finally, got a comfortable job. We're able to do a lot of stuff, and it really started in 2015 when he just kind of surprised everybody with Talladega tickets. He really wanted us to experience it, and I got hooked on cup racing there, going to cup races there. And I watched them on TV forever. And I never had a chance to go, living in Minnesota for a while, and finally being there, I just got hooked to it. Now I'm going one every year, and it's just a fantastic time. I mean, if you really want to hook somebody on NASCAR, take them to a race. It's just incredible.
Yeah, and we've been to quite a few races together ourselves. I do want, while Nathan and Colton are formulating their questions for you about, what you've seen and all this other stuff that we usually ask our fans, I do want to ask about, I want to say it was a 2016 Cup race, Talladega. Subway dumped the sponsorship from Daniel Suarez in the 19 car. maybe it was 2017 at that point.
Yeah, I remember that now.
And he had the Camping World stuff on. And you and your brother Ben were sitting beside me and my fiance Myra, and the 9, or at that time, was it the 9 or the 24? I can't remember.
24 and
It
2017.
was still the 24. Takes out the 19. Can you describe the hilarity that ensued post that?
All right. Well, bad pushes and no room was the end of that Talladega race, and it really showed. And Chase Elliott takes out the 19, and Myra just she looks at Ben, and they just start going at it in an argument, and it was hilarious. Ben did not know what to do in that argument. The anger was like incredible, and I can understand it because my driver got taken out in that too. It was really funny. It was incredibly funny.
Yeah, you guys. At some point, I'll have to get Myra on the show. She's very passionate when it comes to certain things. And she was cussing in Spanish, and that was pretty fucking hilarious.
Yes.
Because Ben is a massive Chase Elliott stan. Chase Elliott does no wrong in his eyes.
Bandwagon.
So he was laughing about it. And then she just went off. So you guys, I'll have to let you guys meet her on the stream at some point. But it was absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely hilarious.
I'm gonna be honest. If I was at a race and there was a wreck and some lady started cussing at me in Spanish, I wouldn't know what the fuck to do.
I'm like, I didn't sign up for this, right? I'm just minding my business.
Yeah, what the hell?
So that's one of my fondest memories at a NASCAR track. So I love talking about that. So I mean, what's one of your best memories at a racetrack?
Nothing can top when we all went to Indianapolis. That was like the best trip ever. I mean, like we all got to experience Indy for the first time, and that seeing the spectacle that was Indianapolis was just incredible. Watching the Indy 500, watching those cars go around and around, also awesome. I mean, we had an amazing time. I think we got there on Friday. We could have gone earlier, could have saw the Freedom 100 if my teacher didn't, make me take a test on the day. I was trying to get out of it, but she didn't let me. But we got there, like experiencing just Saturday, going to that diecast store and just hanging out was awesome. It was just a fun weekend, probably the best weekend I've had at a racetrack, and that was just incredible.
Yeah, and we did a lot of stuff. You said we went to there's like a house in front of IRP that this dude just sells diecasts and stuff. I'm not sure if it's still there or not. But we spent probably 3 hours there buying stuff and talking to this dude. And then later that night, we did not get to go to the little 500. We went instead to the Indianapolis Speedrome. And if I remember correctly, you were kind of whining that we were not going over there, and we went to the Indianapolis Speedrome. But what happened when we got into the stands and you got to experience the stuff that we saw that night for the first time?
Well, I really did want to go see that midget race. I thought, everything was secure and we had tickets, but that was another story. But going to Indy Speedrome, that is just, I don't understand how people can watch that. That is some scary stuff. The figure eights, like shit.
Yeah, so it was a 90-minute outlaw figure eight race, and these are like basically what look like late models and modifieds had a baby, and they go in a figure eight on a quarter mile. And it was, I think that my butt clenched so hard that I was suction cupped to my seat.
Your heart's racing like 100 miles an hour. You're just hoping someone doesn't just collide into each other and just cause this massive track blocking wreck.
Yeah, they race some of those outlaw figure eights down at Erie, just south of me, and those things are crazy.
Yeah,
like holy shit.
Yeah.
Nate.
All right. I've kind of had this one for a while. You mentioned stuff with photos and whatnot, so I want to know. I'm a big paint scheme guy. This is my go-to question for every single guest on the show, and you could probably go back and look at the episode recordings. I do this for every person, and I'm not going to be indifferent for you. So I want to know, number one, what's your favorite paint scheme, and number two, what's your favorite photo, if you have any photos of that paint scheme.
Well, personally, I like a lot of the sprint car paint schemes. They're the best you'll ever see. My favorite is definitely the Shark Racing Logan Schuchart car. That
Hey.
red and white. I don't know why they changed it. It's just incredible scheme. It's so iconic too. I've taken so many pictures of that one. It's amazing. Obviously, that white 57 that Paul Silva brings out for Kyle Larson. That one's pretty cool too. But definitely that Shark Racing car, best out of them. I think in second place is definitely the black one too that Jacob Allen runs in the World Outlaws.
Jared and I actually had a chance to interview Logan Schuchart a couple months ago, right before the World Outlaws season kicked off. He's a super cool dude, kind of quiet and reserved, which I didn't really expect that, being this kind of famous sprint car driver. Super cool dude, kick ass car.
I love the shark mouths that they put on there.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Did you have a favorite photo of that car?
Yeah, I posted a bunch of them up on Twitter. I think it's still up there. I didn't prepare any, but yeah, I've definitely taken a lot of the shark racing cars. Mostly my good photos have come from Summer Nationals. That was the best shot I had at taking pictures of them when I finally actually figured out how to use my camera to its full abilities. Yeah.
I want to know, have you ever raced anything? Being iRacing, Nate and I have done some go-kart stuff. Have you ever had the chance to drive anything?
Other than a go-kart at Panama City, racing my brother, that's it. I've never, I didn't grow up doing anything like that or with the possibility of doing anything like that. I've always been a watcher instead of a doer, but I always wish I could.
Yeah, it's a really good time. And you did mention your Twitter. I know you mentioned right before we got on that you used to do YouTube quite a bit. You have a good page on Instagram. You actually said you had a Larson page on Instagram. Can you hit on some of your social media stuff real quick?
Yeah, I don't do much YouTube anymore. I've focused mostly on the photos because I've been doing that pretty good. JC Racing Photos on Twitter has been my thing. I don't really post them on Instagram as much, but I do have a Larson page, Team Larson 5, that I've been running since 2017. We've almost got 7,000 followers on there.
Holy shit!
It's pretty good, and we're running into some competition now with Larson Land. They're a good page, but competition, gotta hate them. But I love doing it. I've shown Larson it multiple times. He knows about it. He doesn't follow it though. I don't even think he uses social media anymore. But
yeah, makes sense.
Now you should tag us on that. Holy shit, 7,000 people.
No,
We're gonna have to come see who this guy behind the mask is that's running this whole show. But can you? I don't know. You had this progression on YouTube and then Twitter from the stuff where you've basically been a Larson fanboy as long as I've known you. And you kind of went with you were there, you had the CGR stuff, you had NASCAR Racing TV. Kind of what kind of threw you off of trying to go down the YouTube path and into this photo path? Like how has that changed, and how did you kind of get there, if that makes any sense?
It's hard to really drive your path into YouTube now with all these awesome creators and they're really making their own mark. It's just hard to make yours. And with the photos, I can do my own style. I can really take my own pictures and really put them up there. It's easier to do your own thing and be your own person through the photos. And something I couldn't do with YouTube. And I just didn't have the drive to really be a YouTuber at really like 2 years ago. I just kind of wanted to continue. I had the good thing going with the Larson page. I had a good thing going with the photos, and I just kind of stuck with that as my main thing.
So what's your weekend or your night at the race like doing photos and stuff?
I am always on a fence. I'm either in turns 1 and 2 at Williams Grove or turns 3 and 4 in Williams Grove, and I'm right up on that fence, right up on the track, trying to get some really good photos going in that corner. It's pretty dangerous being right there, but I love it. At Port Royal, I was right on the wall. I was right there on the track and take pictures of late models. It's pretty dangerous. My mom's not too happy about it, but I love just being that close to the cars. You get that amazing sensation of speed, and you get some really good photos too because you don't got the fence, the catch fence blocking your view.
Yeah, seems dangerous.
Yeah.
I went to a King of the Wing sprint car race here in Cheyenne this last year, and they weren't even racing yet. They were starting up, and I was walking through the gate to my seat, and I walked through the gate right fired up right next to me, and that shit out of me. So I don't know how I do staying along watching them run.
Yeah, it's super fun. And plus, cars wreck since they're sliding in the corner towards the wall or towards the track. So.
Yeah. If you ever have pit passes or info passes,
door and trying to like get them out there at this point.
Yeah, well, hell yeah, that's always good. We've been trying to do the thing over here with the podcast and the website, which is coming out next or tomorrow, excuse me. But I want to say we will get into that a little bit later in the show when we close off. I guess you've been to plenty of tracks, like we've said. My dad in the comments says that you have been. We know that you've been to places like Elko and Iowa and more. Can you tell us about your experience at Elko Speedway?
It is a tiny little bull ring, and I mean tiny. It is amazing. I went to go see the ARCA series from 2012 to 2014 there. I really didn't do much local stuff because I wasn't into that. I mean, I just mostly like started getting into local stuff, but then they've had that ARCA series. That's when I really started going to races. That is such a cool ass track. Sorry for swearing, but that's a cool track. It is. It's so tight in the corners that when you go in, you'll see it when you watch the ARCA races nowadays. You go in there, you gotta take the dude out just to take the corner. It's amazing. If you love wrecks, it's a good track to go and watch racing because you're guaranteed to see someone get moved.
So if you want to get someone hooked on racing, specifically take them to an Elko race.
Especially up in the Midwest, there's not that many like racing spots up there. But this one is south of the Twin Cities. It's right there in the hub of the Twin Cities. And you go there, and man, it is amazing. They got the best stands I've ever seen at a like local track. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, so on the topic of tracks, I guess I wouldn't necessarily say I'm switching in terms of, we're talking about local tracks and whatnot, but you mentioned you went to the Indy 500 a few years ago. I'm not exactly sure what year that was, but I want to know a little about your experience. And as someone who's never been there but wants to be there one year, what is it that makes Indy different than everything else?
It is massive. It is a huge place. You sit in a corner. You really can't see the whole place because you got the pagoda and the trees. My dad complained the whole race about the trees, but it is one of the coolest places ever. I think it's just the history of racing that draws you to that track. You really aren't going to see a good view of everything. You're going just because it's the Indy 500 because it's the most prestigious race in the United States. Mm-hmm. I loved being there. The whole weekend is just packed full of stuff to do, and it honestly feels like a party. You're all there with a bunch of racing fans, and you're ready to experience one of the coolest things in your life. I think it's definitely up there in terms of worldwide awesome races, and definitely something that everybody should do once in their lives if they're a racing fan.
Yeah, like it's going to happen one year. I'm not sure when it is, but it's going to happen because I'm kind of a history nerd and I love Indy, and it's probably my favorite race in the world. So I need to make it out there eventually.
Yeah. So you've got the the museum and everything there, but I think the vibe is a little bit more formal than a NASCAR race.
Oh yeah.
And the best thing that I can say on race day is it's kind of like going to a Macy's Day Parade with a race behind it. It is such an odd but yet like powerful feeling. I mean, you start off, you see the parade of the cars going to the track. You got them presenting the trophy at the end of the parade, and then they do the kind of stuff that you see at the Coke 600 with the helicopters and the GIs coming out of the helicopters and shit like that. And then they have the snake pit going during the race, and it's just like this whole party atmosphere. But then there's just some like elegance to it as well. And seeing Kelly Clarkson sing the anthem, and then back home again in Indiana. I mean, I've never gotten the type of chills that you get during back home again in Indiana at any other event, sports related or not.
It's just sad we couldn't hear Jim Neighbors sing it. I think we went to the first one without him in there, and yeah, it's just I love the event. It was so much fun. Like Alex said, it's so prestigious. Like you feel like you're going back in time too, of a very high class racing era with these Indy cars. And I love how they show off the cars. The cars are on the front stretch before the race. They're right there, and that's something NASCAR could learn a lot from, staging the cars on the front stretch. But it's just awesome. You feel like it's almost like a religious venture for racing fans. Like you feel like you gotta be there.
Yeah, it's like the mecca of motorsports, honestly. Yes, but I think the way that the pomp and circumstance is kind of along the lines of the Kentucky Derby. That's probably the most close event that I could say that it's like. It is very prestigious, but there's still that redneckery going on.
I want to know, you're a big Larson fan. When did you become a Larson fan? How? And did you have a driver before Larson that you rooted for?
Yeah, I was a big Dale Jr. guy growing up. I had no, like I really didn't care when I was a kid. I just loved NASCAR. But if I was going to wear a shirt, it was going to be a Dale Jr. shirt, just because my grandma and just my grandpa, who were huge NASCAR or Dale Jr. fans. I really like Tony Stewart. I got to meet him when I was 5. I don't remember a thing from it, but I was there. But I started really liking Larson in 2012 when Speed used to tape delay those K&N races, and you come home on a Thursday afternoon. I used to come home on a Thursday afternoon from school and turn them on and watch it. And I really became a Larson fan from that. He could wheel those old Gen 4 cars, and that race at Rockingham when he won the championship was really what cemented me as a Larson fan. And I kind of faded away from Dale Jr. as his career was kind of going a little down. It was before his little resurgence, but I became a Larson fan right there. Changed my whole Larson, changed my Dale Jr. kind of fan thing there. I still repped him at Talladega because, like, he's still my guy, but I was a big Larson guy then.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got ones lined up if you want to keep this show rolling.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I'm cool.
Have you gotten involved with, like, as far as watching or becoming any amount of fan of racing outside of circle track? Whether it be circuits, we did a whole show where we talked about like boat racing and shit like that. Like, are you just any kind of racing guy, or you mostly stick to the dirt and the paved?
I like car racing. I love F1 now. I used to not like F1. Now I love F1. That's my thing. I will never miss a race now. I used to critique it back in like 2016 for being boring. But now, thanks to the Drive to Survive show, I'm fully in it. I love F1 now. I've loved IndyCar for a long time. I just thought it was awesome seeing him run the ovals. Of course, NASCAR, big thing. All that dirt stuff has just been lately too. Going to the races really helps. I guess other types of racing I like. I don't know. It's just NASCAR. It's just like car racing. I really don't like horse racing. I don't like boat racing. I like car racing.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Like people always tell me, hey, why don't you watch MotoGP or whatever? But I'm like, well, I think 2 wheels is a little too much for me. So, like, I can't see myself on a motorcycle. I've never really understood how that works. So, like, anything with 4 wheels is my thing.
I mean, I kind of like the Supercross stuff. If it's on, I'll watch it, but I'm not really a big fan of it.
Right, I just don't know a lot about it. Like, I don't know how you drive. I'm not really sure ride per se, but I'm not really sure what goes into those races as much as I do with cars. So,
yeah,
it's kind of foreign to me.
All I know is
I want to go back. Yeah, I want to go back to what you were talking about with IndyCar and being a fan of that. I know that you've been to Iowa. Did you go to any Iowa IndyCar races, or was it only the NASCAR stuff?
It was just the NASCAR stuff because at the time we really couldn't do much. extra stuff back then. So going to Iowa was just a year thing. That was our thing. And I really enjoyed it. That was my first ever NASCAR experience in 2013 going to Iowa. And man, I never seen NASCAR live ever. And it blew my mind. It was just, that is just incredible. And now I'm hooked on it. And I've been going to races ever since.
Alex, your dad has a question for him in the comments here. I'll pull it up. Jake, what track do you want to go to this year to check off your bucket list?
Well, if I had the time and money, I'd definitely go to Charlotte. Always wanted to go to the 600. It's just such a cool race. It's always been on my bucket list to go to. It's the longest one of the year. Charlotte in general is one of my favorite tracks. I want to go, but it's hard because you got to book a hotel and all that. And I've never lived close enough to just go there and back, but I really want to go. Now that I've checked off the Indy 500, I want to get another spectacle of the greatest day in racing down.
Yeah, 600 is a very good event, unless you went last year like I did.
Yeah.
Felt like
You got
a
to see
waste
Larson
of money,
win.
honestly.
Yeah.
I got to see Larson win. My ass. I got to fucking sleep in the stands. That's what I did because that was the most boring race that I ever saw. I saw literally 2 on-track passes for 600 miles.
What do you
Worst
expect?
race
It's the
I've
high
ever been
downforce.
to.
It's the high downforce. There ain't no
It's a,
passing.
it's a
Hey, man.
prestigious race. I was hoping there was going to be some shit that actually happened.
If
Like,
we
I've
were
been
this
to
year,
one race,
The
I've
only
never,
car
ever saw
that could
this.
pass was the 99 car, and he had a speeding penalty and couldn't get back on the lead lap. So it just doesn't matter.
if we were going to get into a pissing match, I mean, I went to the second Vegas race last year.
I didn't even watch that.
I mean, hey, look,
I-
Hamlin won. That's redeeming
you
quality
can't
right
tell
there.
me. You cannot tell me that I don't win the shittiest race ever contest.
You
Last
only
year's
win because
600.
it was 100 miles longer.
I went to the Daytona
Mm.
500 last year. Like, you know how that was until last lap? Like, do you know how bad that was?
I'm sorry. I think I take the shittiest race ever watched. I went to the 2015 Talladega Fall race. Shittiest race ever.
I was there with you, son.
I mean, look, at least they tried to race in that. And this
Did they?
Daytona 500 last year, they did not try to race. From the first time after that big wreck, 6-hour rain delay, boom. They just ran in a train. Like, they didn't try.
I could guarantee
I mean, I
you
understand,
Kevin
man.
Harvick, man. He was not trying to race.
Like, I understand why they did it. I understand they had to get to the end, but oh dear Lord.
I was at that race too.
Oh
It was
no!
great.
Here we go.
Oh,
Hold
no,
on.
this
Hold
is-
on.
I was
this
at
is
the
fun
I was
part.
at the green flag race.
Which
Dakota,
of the end are we talking
Dakota,
here?
Dakota,
I love that
Dakota,
race.
Dakota.
It's one of my
Hold
favorite
on,
races.
Dakota.
I
I know
will
that
defend
me and
Atlanta
you are
to the
stark
end.
contrasts
Nothing
for
new.
this stuff, but 325 green flag laps at Atlanta when you actually could pass and there was tire degradation and all that stuff is 15 times more entertaining than the shit that we saw this year on the super speedway.
Exactly.
And, we'll have Dakota on the show hopefully in the coming months. But
Yeah, we
that
do
is
wanna-
one thing that me and him have just starkly opposite opinions on when it comes to stuff like that. Because I know he's a Georgia boy too, and I think he should give his home track a little bit more love. But man,
Yeah, we definitely need to do a Chairgate and Fanfield crossover here soon.
Well, if you want to
Absolutely.
debate about bad races, if you've ever been to an ARCA race at Daytona, at least recently,
Eek.
yeah.
It's that composite body car. You can't even draft with it. It's got that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
rubber.
let's just say single file for 99% of the race. You get a green white checker, Venturini team orders. That's it. Like, there's no.
if there's no Venturini Motorsports, or if they limit them to like 2 cars, I think maybe there's some action. But
I mean, the only action that happened this year was that there were a couple wrecks under caution that people didn't get to see on the broadcast. So
yeah,
that was
Or they
fun.
just
We had
bring
people
back the
running
Gen
through the
4
grass
cars.
under caution. We had all sorts of stuff. So
Yeah, same.
I just think they need to build the ARCA. They need to build up the ARCA series as like the new truck series and run the Gen 4 cars again. I mean, that would make it awesome.
I think they need to stop marketing the ARCA and the Truck Series as single A and rookie ball like Major League Baseball does.
Yes.
If they get some sort of, I don't know how they do it without decreasing the cost of the truck significantly so that more teams could jump in. But if we highlight my fantasy schedule, which I can bring up again this year, it is absolutely possible to have guys like David Reagan run, in the truck series. And a lot of veteran NASCAR drivers are guys who just weren't quite good enough to cut it and cut like it used to be.
You're going to think I'm crazy, but the best thing to do is to bring the Cup drivers back. I think since we've ditched them, the racing quality has gone down, especially in the truck series. I mean, people, Kyle Busch used to have people to race against him. I know that's crazy, but they were still competitive races with Kyle Busch. And I mean, I used to be against Cup drivers in those lower series, but I mean, it'll definitely put butts in seats and it'll drive up the competition. You'll create some great guys.
I'm on that fence, and I've been pushed over that fence lately with Xfinity because it seems like the racing itself is really, really good. The car is amazing. It's just the competition. It's like I don't want to see Ty Gibbs win 15 races with next to no competition besides the JRM cars. At some point they got to learn to get somebody better than them. So I think I used to be really against the Cup guys, but now that I'm seeing the benefits to it, I think I'm taking a step back and saying, hey, we need these guys to come teach the younger kids.
The problem is there's a balance that is going to be really hard to come by, because if you start putting guys like Harvick and Busch back into that show on Saturday, how are they not going to be the ones that win 10 races out of the year? So there's going to have to be a balance. Right. I'd love to see Cup drivers in there for more extent. We're going to see Hendrick drivers. We're going to see Elliott Larson and Bowman and Byron in a couple of JRM number 88 cars here over the summer months. So we'll see how that works. I think it's definitely a good way to market the series for new fans, and
it's a good way to put butts in seats, too.
Absolutely.
You get Cup drivers in there. You got high-profile drivers in there. Definitely going to put butts in seats. But, man, does the Xfinity Series need to start marketing their drivers? It just seems like they don't.
Names are made here. Yeah, that's the only time we hear about those names, right? Just
exactly.
That one commercial.
Man, market Noah Gragson. He's the face of the sport, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think an easy way to fix that is you put a cap on which Cup drivers can start in Xfinity now often. Instead of just that anyone can do 5 races a year, you say if you've won more than 10 Cup races, you can do 1 start a year.
Or make them run the lower tier teams' cars.
Okay.
Right. Throw Cody Ware down in the Xfinity Series for 10 races a year.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm fine with that.
I mean, why not? I don't think there's anything to lose.
Like a Cole Custer, I think it's really good seeing him go down there. I wouldn't like to see Harvick go do what he did in 2006.
Well, yeah, of course, we're not going to have him earn points anymore. But
no, but if he still grabs half the wins, that's not fun.
I'd rather, honestly, if you're a development driver, I'd honestly take a guy like, let's just say Hamlin in 2005. He went winless in the Busch Series. But you look at what he did in Cup, he had enough preparation against really good drivers to where it didn't matter. Versus, let's just say, I would rather have a background like that. Hey, I finished second to a Cup driver 15 times, and I beat him every now and then versus, I won 15 Xfinity races in 2 years, and I never had to beat a Cup guy for it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, a good thing to do would be for you can run 5 races for a Cup team. Like say Kyle Busch runs for JGR, he can run 5 Cup race. He can run 5 Xfinity races with JGR. Then once he's reached that 5 cap, he has to race with a lower tier team for as many as he wants. So he can go race for JD Motorsports or MBM for as many as he wants after that.
That would be kind of cool. My only fear is that you're going to start seeing kind of like what happened with Priest last week and the whole this has a different name, but it's not actually this team's car.
Right. Look at the 07 when Custer was in it. They basically were running an SHR Xfinity car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Jake, do you collect diecasts?
I do collect diecasts.
What's your favorite diecast you own?
Definitely the Dover Kyle Larson car that I got. I got that signed recently, and I was there. It was the only time I've ever seen Kyle Larson win in a Cup car, and I had to get the car, and it looks great. I guess
Is it the 2019 Dover win?
Yeah, it's the Clover car.
I went to that race the next week in Talladega. I got to meet Kyle Larson.
2 hours.
Yeah, I was there all week. I only got to watch him race for a little bit, but I did meet Kyle Larson at a party on the boulevard.
That's pretty fucking dope.
It was. Yeah, I wouldn't say meet. I saw him standing over there, and just as he was walking away, I squeezed my way through a crowd and yelled his name about 45 times. I was like, Kyle, just let me shake your hand. And he gave me an awkward look and
He's great with that. Awkward looks. He's
Yeah.
so shy. Like
He's not a people person.
Shy, and he's a
No.
lot shorter than I thought he was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's like
Like
5'6"
I was like
maybe,
standing over
I
him,
guess.
like
Well, how do you think he's so good at, the midget racing and stuff? Because those cars are kind of built shorter than everything. Because you get a Carson Hocevar in a midget, he's 6 foot. His head's coming out of the top of it. So
yeah, Ryan Newman.
I mean, yeah, like
how do you think Rico does so good? Come on.
Well,
that's a little much.
But it
on
is a
that
thing,
same- on that same line of thinking, why don't you tell everybody else one of your other fondest memories at Atlanta Motor Speedway, where you're kind of a douchebag to a race car driver.
Oh yeah, I called Jay McFlurry because he wouldn't give me an autograph, and I was very mad, and he called me an asshole. I'm not a big McMurray guy. I never have been. I thought he was always second to Kyle Larson. So there you go. And snubbing me does not get you good credit with me. I'm looking at you, Jeff Gordon.
Yeah,
Oh my god,
Larry McMurray. Huh?
This guy.
Oh no.
Got to
How
tell the
old
Jeff
were you
Gordon
at the
story.
time?
Oh, I was
tell
like,
the Jeff Gordon story.
I was like, was it 2016, 15 years old.
Oh.
I wasn't like,
McMurray's the douche for calling a 16-year-old an asshole.
yeah.
Oh,
The Jeff Gordon story is very fun because, yeah, thanks, Chad. Yeah,
called you a punk ass kid.
punk ass kid. Jeff Gordon. We were in the suite next to him, which was pretty cool. I mean, he comes out of the suite. He comes out of the suite, and I want to get his autograph on my lanyard or ticket, and he just walks by, snubs everybody, just doesn't even sign for anybody. Gets in a elevator full of Jeff Gordon fans, just straight up. He will not sign for anyone standing outside of his little suite, but he'll go into a elevator full of Jeff Gordon fans and just be crowded. I did meet Darrell Waltrip that day, and he stood there, signed for everything, answered questions and all. I'm a big Darrell Waltrip guy now. He's cool. Jeff Gordon sucks though.
So after the race this year in Atlanta, Jeff Gordon, of course, returned to the Fox booth. We were just hanging outside of the elevator because my parents found somebody's personal belongings or something, so my dad was returning it to customer service. And Jeff just darts out of there. He is like a scared little child running like 20 miles an hour with his head ducked down. And this one dude's like, "Hey, Jeff, can you sign this diecast?" And he just looks at him real angrily and signs it and then just walks off. Jeff Gordon, to be the most famous NASCAR driver during his career and one of the most, I guess, quote-unquote, fan-friendly, as in getting fans to the racetrack drivers in NASCAR history, he's kind of a little bitch.
He's not paid to be nice anymore.
Because my driver, obviously, is a Hamlin fan. It's really hard to meet him. Like, he's notoriously difficult. Like, he does not sign stuff unless you're like incredibly lucky. Like, out of the, let's just say I've seen him in person like 5 years, just walking past him and all that kind of stuff. I've only ever met him 3 times, and 2 of those were on the same weekend. So
it may be just because you're in Daytona. Every time that I've had a chance to be in the same vicinity as Denny Hamlin, he's talked to me.
Yeah, you got his autograph.
I don't really go to
first.
scheduled appearances. I kind of just see them.
Yeah, so you probably catch him when he's got to go take a shit or something.
Yeah, I understand that. Like, I don't get mad. I'm like, hey, look, this, he's just doing his job or whatever. But
yeah,
it is funny
driver
drivers that they just seemingly forget that they have a job to do in the garage, so they'll just go walk over and sign stuff, and their crew is like yank them back. It's like, hey, you got to get in the car.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think that Jake took a really good photograph of Denny. That was it 2016 driver introductions? 2017 driver introductions?
I still don't know how you did it.
I did not find him prior to driver introductions. It was after he was already on the Chevy Silverado. And I was like, "Hey, Denny, can you sign my hat?" And he just looked at me and said, "Yeah, come on." And, we talked a little bit while he was signing his hat and stuff. And this is while the truck's moving. And then Jake got a really good picture of him signing my hat. So that was pretty good. Every time I see him in Atlanta, he takes time. I don't know. He
I
even
would,
had his
was really
daughter the
hoping
first
that
time
that
I met him.
story ended with Denny being like, "Yeah, hop on," like you riding around the truck with him.
No,
Yeah,
he
that's
would
what I was
not have
thinking.
done that.
No.
He would have probably laughed because I'd have busted my ass because it was a moving truck.
Yeah.
Alex, do you remember when Denny Hamlin went past all of us in the line autograph line, and Austin Dillon came up and he said, "Remember that when you're buying T-shirts." You remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and Jimmy Johnson always used to take the long way around to skip everybody.
Oh, I've never
Were
seen
you?
him.
Wait a minute. Were you there? Were you there the year that? Yes, you were. You had to be there. You remember when Ben and I got into a drinking contest at the
Yes.
compound,
Yes.
and I jogged with Jimmy Johnson for about 15 steps while we were on the way to the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely
I
remember
was
the
like,
drinking
I'm
contest.
running with Jimmy Johnson. I was so
Hey,
bad.
at least you weren't dying for a Happy Meal at 2 a.m, like Ben was.
Yeah. Good times. Good
Yeah.
times.
To this day, Kyle Larson's the only NASCAR driver I've ever met.
Really?
We're gonna change that.
I've met like a ton of them. I just haven't really talked to them. Like I've never got time to talk to them. It's like, hey, can I get this picture? And that's it.
Well, if you count like Jeremy Clements and Raja Caruth, right? But like on here, but like I've never face to face met any other NASCAR driver other than Kyle Larson. And even that, I'd count it like halfway.
Yeah.
I've carried a full conversation with Kyle Larson. He's just so cool when you start talking to him about racing stuff. Like he says he doesn't know much about racing, but like shit, he does. Like he knows the technical bits about the car too. Like,
Alex fucks up with this.
No comment. That is going to be the episode that we have Myra on.
All right.
You can.
I'm gonna
ask
watch
about the
that one,
Terminator.
man.
You're gonna have to whenever we do with our SO stuff here later this summer. You're gonna have to ask her about the Terminator. I am not going to comment on that. That is an embarrassment on my behalf. So we'll leave that at that. So anyways, this has been a good show tonight.
Yes.
Is there anything else that we want to hit before we check out?
Other than NASCAR things, I got to see a ghost show, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I see you're wearing the Ghost T-shirt today. So
Yeah.
I do want to thank you for this. So I don't know how you guys listen to music, but I usually have like a rotation where for 1 month I'm listening to one band and whatnot. And Jake is the person who got me into Ghost, and I've been listening to them for the last 3 weeks straight. They're in my little top 5 bands rotation. So I do want to thank you for that. I mean, this is fan fuel. We are fans of different stuff. I mean, how was the show? And what other kind of stuff are you into other than just the music?
The show was awesome. Pyrotechnics were great. They had a bunch of ghouls doing fun stuff, and they were throwing picks at each other. It was such a fun show. He interacts with the crowd really good, so I love it. I've loved Ghost since like 2013. I've been into them. I'm in the same boat as you, Alex. I'll listen to different things on different months, but Ghost has always been the one that kind of stuck. Right now, I'm kind of back into the 70s metal, like Black Sabbath and kind of early Metallica in the 80s. But yeah, I'm really into that Ghost stuff. It's pretty good. I saw they sponsored a race car with Bailey Curry back at Phoenix, and that was awesome. I got the diecast of that one.
That's cool. Yeah, when worlds collide, it's a little bit weird. That's like when you see some of these people, different movie stars or whatever showing up at like Fontana or this year at the Clash. Just like, wow, I didn't know these people actually paid attention to NASCAR because it's such a southern sport. So yeah. If there's nothing else, then we do have some announcements to make tonight. We have rebranded the fanfuelmotorsports.com, and its official launch will be tomorrow. Thanks to Seth from In Between Media for helping us do that. I'm not able to show you guys a walkthrough tonight of the redesign, but basically it's a lot more modern, it's a lot more useful, and it's going to be very good for you guys ease of access to look at some of our stuff. Basically all of our categories are redesigned, so everything should be more navigable, and we look a lot more professional. Of course, we'll obviously be building onto that week over week from now until the end of time, that we're not a thing anymore. But I suggest tomorrow we'll be throwing everything on social media. To check us out on fanfuelmotorsports.com. We'll have fan spotlight articles coming shortly. I know I've gotten articles working on for our fantasy stuff, our esports stuff, and then my new Latford system from the What If section. And then, of course, these guys all have stuff that they're working on, these guys being Colton, Nathan, and Jared. And we might try and get some JC Racing photos on there, some content on there. I don't know if Jake's up for that, but shameless plug there.
Heck yeah.
I'll have. Go ahead.
I'll have some great photos from the Gettysburg Clash and Morgan Cup coming up in 2 weeks. That is a week of World of Outlaws racing, 2 of them in 1 week. I'll definitely have some photos up on that.
All right, sweet. Well, do you have any other plugs for right now before we hop off of here?
No, just got the photo thing. It's pretty good. The Larson thing. And that's it. That's all I'm working on nowadays.
Well, thanks for coming on. It's been a good show. Our typical hour and a half session. It was really good talking about different stuff from the racing world and this weekend's action at Dover with you. Be sure to comment on Facebook or YouTube, asking us a question on our next show, 7:30 p.m. Wednesdays every time. We have our Fan Fuel Pitbox Discord. The link is currently scrolling under Colton and Nathan as we're talking. We will be on there for some of these live race reactions this weekend for the Darlington races. Don't forget to check out fanfuelmotorsports.com tomorrow. And anyone who is watching on Twitch right now, I want to thank you for that. And as a reminder for those of you who did not get the memo, we're not doing any Twitter streams from now on. Tonight and forever is going to be over on Twitch for our third different stream. Thanks for watching on YouTube and Facebook if you are, and we will see you again next week.